and welcome back to another video from the Fan Pub. It's a evening after the injury of Saquon Barkley. It's really my take on his injury situation. If any of you are not familiar with it by now, that would be a shock to a fantasy community. But like most drafts, he went number one. And this draft was no different. We on this channel have generally tried to be realistic with Saquon Barkley this year. Our concerns were, particularly mine, that's why I didn't have him as the number one in redraft formula for this year, is not because of talent. We all know how good Saquon Barkley is. It wasn't because of that. It was because of the Giants situation. Now, I will add a caveat in this. We'll talk about this later on in the week. Daniel Jones was excellent, frankly. And there are two winnable games I felt on the schedule over the next 10 weeks, and one of them was against Tampa, and the other one is next week, this week coming up now. So, he's shown what kind of quarterback he is. And again, if you followed our channel for a while, you're going to know that we weren't down on Daniel Jones like a lot of the media, a lot of the instant reaction. We said, give the guy a chance, let's see what he can do. Well, you saw he's mobile. He brings a different energy to the game. He's interested. He's up for it. He wants to win. He might be a shining light in the season of the Giants. I'm not saying he's going to do a lot, but he's a difference maker. It's a shame we won't get to see him with Saquon developing together over these next few weeks, because that's going to be quite hard for Daniel Jones. Actually, it's going to really affect, I think, his ability to grow. Now, let's get on to the Saquon news in more detail. Thank you for the people watching. Really appreciate that. This is really your show. I appreciate I'm just talking about Saquon Barkley, but if you do want to ask anything, you're more than welcome. We'll probably be filming for about 10 to 15 minutes max. So again, if you have any questions, please throw them in and I'll try to answer them as we get towards the end of the video. What do we know? Well, if you watched the game, which I did, I was able to play the take back at the point of when he hurt himself, and it was pretty clear that his foot had been planted, his body was going to the left, and there was a moment in that where his body's going one stationary. I was a little bit concerned at the time that it looked more serious than it's going to be. It's still bad. A high ankle sprain, as it's turned out to be, is very serious. We've seen AJ Green, who's been out for 8 weeks really. So their timetable of 8 weeks is very optimistic. Actually, these injuries are highly reoccurring. I would estimate it's going to be on the longer side. 6 to 8 weeks is probably realistic. Going to hand over to Wayne Gallman. No chance, frankly. No chance at all that is going to happen. They are going to bring in somebody. Now, in my view, there are really two key candidates out there. Excuse me. Two key candidates right now out there on the waivers that are more likely than Wayne Gallman. So don't blow it. That are more likely than Wayne Gallman. So don't blow any whack budget you got on this guy. If you look at his track record over the last few years, Wayne Gallman, he's been hovering around the league. Sorry, it's just not going to help the Giants, and it's not going to help their cause. The best option, in my humble view, would be to go and pick up C.J. Anderson, who was recently released by the Detroit Lions. That would make the most amount of sense. So if you're prepared to take a gamble, and I have tonight, picked him up in a couple of leagues, take a flyer on C.J. Anderson just for now. I mean, you're bound to have somebody that you can just drop, take a shot, and if it doesn't pan out, okay, you bench him to the waiver wire. Just a risk. It's a gamble. Could be AJ Ajayi. I'm getting his name wrong, but Ajayi. He could be him, but I don't think so, because I think he's... so that's the current situation that the Saquon Barkley owners are in. There's no way you're going to drop him. You might get some tradability for him, but the problem is going to be that you've got to hold the player for an exorbitantly long time. I mean, I could actually see a scenario where they take him up to their bye week, frankly, the Giants, and rest him. That's fantasy football seasons right now. I know leagues where people paid 200 WAP to get, and that's a great example of it right there, 200 WAP to get their drafting position and took Saquon Barkley. Often the case with this, it's really hard to get it right. We felt on the channel that the pick for this year would be Kamara. I think it's going to be quite close. I think he's got a realistic shot now with everything the way it's going. He's got a shot to be the number one this year, and that would be very pleasing from a channel perspective. But we never like to get there because of injuries to other players. That's never a great thing. And it's a real loss to the NFL to lose a player of this caliber. So there we are, really. What we have is the situation with Saquon Barkley. Quite worrying. Not much you can do about it as an owner. Gorman is not the answer to your prayers. Frankly, it's the Giants. They are going to be a team that's going to be chasing in most games. We saw that. The quarterback's going to have to do a lot of the haters and everything else. Well played to him. I mean, that really was something special. So, what are your thoughts on Saquon Barkley? What do you think is going to happen from here? The MRI results, by the way, were pretty negative, other than the ankle sprain.